Greetings and welcome to a new video. In this video we will discuss the Miller's theorem that will be applied on negative feedback amplifiers. We most often encounter the feedback capacitor and we would like to use that feedback capacitor to calculate the frequency response of an amplifier in a more convenient and easy way. And this theorem will allow us to do that, and we will see some examples in this video. So let's start first with our introduction about this theorem. Now, as said, we encounter frequently a feedback element, can be a capacitor, can be a resistor, can be anything, in electronic circuits. And we see here in a circuit, we have an amplifier here, where we have an input and an output. And here we have our feedback element, in this case, generally given as ZF, which is our feedback impedance. Now, this feedback element can be a simple resistor, said before, can be also a capacitor, can be an inductor, or even a more complex circuit like an amplifier. So we can have also an amplifier in the feedback loop. This feedback element, ZF, can have a dramatic effect on our circuit behavior, especially on our input impedance and also on our frequency response. This equivalent input and also the output impedance will be then changed because of this negative feedback of this capacitor or inductor or a resistor. Now the frequency response will then change. That means the cutoff frequency, by the way, also the bandwidth of our circuit will be affected by this feedback element. Now this feedback element is sometimes also intentionally placed to have a specific specification or specific action in our circuit, but it is also other times an undesirable effect. So it is there, we don't want to have it, but it is there in the circuit components. Like we have that also in our BJT and in our MOSFET. So there's two types of transistor we encounter most often. So we have this CMU and the CGD we have seen many times in our previous videos about frequency analysis of these transistors. So let's see the symbols of these two transistors we encounter mostly. So we have here NPN BJT and here the N-channel MOSFET enhancement type. You see also here the base emitter and the collector. For the MOSFET you see the gate, source and drain. And you have here the simple circuit element. In this case we don't see the capacitor of course, but if you go to the model, which is the high frequency model, then you can see that there is indeed a feedback element, in this case a feedback capacitor, for the small signal high frequency model of the BJT, but also for the small signal high frequency model of the MOSFET, that is the CGD. And this will have a dramatic effect, as said before, on our frequency response. Okay, let's now go to the derivation, what it all means in this format for our feedback element. Now our feedback circuit here, or amplifier, will have a gain, which is now defined as the output voltage divided by the input as AV. So this amplifier will have a gain given by this expression. Now we have here the voltage across the feedback element, which is our feedback voltage. And there will be also a feedback current flowing through this impedance ZF. In a similar case, we can also define another current, which is the output current, which is IO, which is of course the minus of IF. Now these two will be then used in the derivation we will do shortly. Now the current through this feedback impedance is then given by the Ohm's law. We can say the current is equal to the voltage divided by the impedance ZF. And the voltage VF is of course the voltage at this node, which is the VI, minus the voltage at this node, which is the VO, and again divided by the feedback element, feedback impedance ZF. What we also can do, we can take out here the value of the VI and then write it down like so. And we can recognize directly that the VO over VI is appearing. And that is our gain, because that was our gain from this node to that node. So we can also write it like so. We can also say VI times 1 minus the voltage gain over the ZF. Well, if we now rewrite this and we have an expression for VI over IF, that will then result in a feedback impedance over 1 minus AV. And this is an important result, by the way. You can see here the input voltage divided by the same feedback current. We'll see here between these two nodes actually this impedance, which is 1 minus AV times smaller than the actual feedback element, which was an interesting result. Now, We do the similar analysis then for the output current. Here, looking from the output terminal, we can now write down in a similar way our expression for the current. So we can say output voltage minus the input voltage over the ZF. That's shown here, which is actually the reverse of this expression. Now, moving on in a similar way, we take out the VO here, and we have here now the minus VI over VO in the parentheses. And that is actually the inverse of our voltage gain expression. So we have the following: VO times 1 minus the 1 over the voltage gain in this expression, and again over the feedback impedance. And if we again want to have an expression like VO over IO, which is our impedance, because that will be then looking between these two nodes, is this expression. Again, you have now a term which will then determined by our voltage gain V over VI. Okay, this is an important result. We will also see shortly how that can be used in our circuit. Okay, the feedback impedance ZF appears now between the nodes 1 and 2, that is given by these two nodes. So we want to transform this ZF, which is our feedback element, into two grounded grounded impedances, or impedance between these two nodes, while assuring, that is important, all the currents and the voltages in the circuit remain unchanged. So we will like to transform this circuit in a new circuit, equivalent circuit, but the current and the voltage which is seen in this circuit must be unchanged. So let's see that. So we would like to have this. So we have again our node 1 and node 2. This is our input voltage, this is our output voltage, and we have here now two impedances which will be determined shortly. But that impedance and that impedance should have the same current and the same voltage looking at the node 1 and node 2. That should not be changed looking at the original circuit. That is the condition. Okay. So this current IF, which is also flowing here, will be also flowing there, because that's this VI over IF. And that impedance will be then given by this expression shortly. And IO here is also flowing from in this branch, which is then VO over IO, which is then given in this expression. Now the Miller input impedance, which is called Miller input impedance, is then given by Z in Miller, is then this expression, because this VI over IF is our definition of a resistance or impedance. And that is the ZF over 1 minus the AV. And that is shown here. And we have also the output Miller impedance, and that is then given by this expression here in the box, and that is also shown here as Z out Miller. So in our equivalent circuit, we have now our two equivalent impedances, which is the Z in Miller here and the Z out Miller, which is defined or determined by our voltage gain and also defined by our feedback element. Now we make now two observations. This is very important. The first one is the current drawn by this feedback element or feedback impedance from node 1 in the original circuit here must be equal to the drawn current by the Z in Miller in the equivalent circuit here. And that is of course true because the VI over IF is this. And the voltage at this node is still VI, so that is also fulfilled. In the second condition, in a similar way for the node 2, that the current here injected in the original circuit must be the same as also injected here, and also the voltage at this node must be also the same as in the original circuit, which is again the same condition. So that will be also satisfied. So this is an important part in the determination from the original circuit to the equivalent circuit, and we can move on using these two expressions for our input Miller impedance and also the output Miller impedance. Again, as our observation, we see that our equivalent input impedance is actually reduced by a factor 1 minus AV. So if the voltage gain is large, we can create a very small impedance actually here between these two nodes, which is an interesting result. Okay, let's see now in simple example number 1 of an inverting amplifier. So we have here a simple inverting amplifier, actually an integrator. Now if we apply here a small voltage, positive voltage at the input, the output voltage will be going down because it is an inverting action by the gain times the change in the input voltage. But we would like to see how that is affected by this capacitor. So the easiest way to do that is using Miller's theorem. And that is actually shown here. So we can transform this circuit in a circuit where we have two capacitors, input Miller capacitor and the output Miller capacitor, C out Miller and C in Miller. And we can say the C in Miller, which is the input Miller capacitor, is given by 1 plus the gain times the feedback capacitor. So you see the feedback capacitor will be then multiplied by 1 plus the gain. It's actually 1 minus the A0. That's why you have a plus here. So you will actually increase this capacitor by, let's say, maybe 11 times or maybe 100 times, depending on the gain. And that will also have an effect on the frequency response as explained earlier. Now the output capacitor on the side of the C out Miller is also calculated using the gain of the amplifier and also the feedback capacitor in using this formula. So you see here now a specific example where you see the MOSFET and the RS and RD here, and we see here the feedback capacitor also from the gate to the drain, which is a floating capacitor. Now we would like to now designate the gate and the drain nodes here, and we would like to see what the mid-band small signal voltage gain is from the gate to drain. We already have encountered this kind of circuits before, and that is then the formula here, minus GMRD. And since we talk about the mid-band voltage gain, this CF is not in the picture. Now if we now go down here using the Miller's theorem, we will get actually these circuit, and that will be having now two capacitors instead of this floating capacitor between the gate and the drain. And that will be then the input Miller and the output Miller capacitors, and given by this formula. Again, here we see that the AV is given, which is now in this case negative, so we will be then 1 plus this GMRD. And depends on the resistor RD and also on our transconductance GM. And we have here now the formula for the C in Miller, and the C out Miller is given by this formula. Remember here, there is one important note, and this is also one of the important things about using this Miller theorem. Because we talk about the mid-band small signal voltage gain, we have only used that in order to calculate the C in Miller and the C out Miller. Well, this gain is of course for a specific region and not for the complete region. And that is a part where we need to be considering also the approximation actually where we talk about. It is not an exact transformation, but an approximate change of our actual circuit from the equivalent circuit. Okay, let's see now in example number 2 about the input resistance using some examples here. So we have here an amplifier with different gains, here minus 99, here minus 9, plus 6, in this case plus 1. And we have also the feedback resistors all in all 4 cases as 10 kilo. We would like to determine what's now the input resistance between these two nodes. So our objective is calculate the input resistance Rin of each circuit, and the amplifiers are ideal voltage amplifiers. Now we can use now the formula of the Miller's input resistance or input impedance, and we can now see also what the values for that is. Now for the voltage amplifier model, we can use this model where you see actually this yellow box will be then, if you blow it up, will be this one, where you also see this RF here. So this is actually the pink part is the voltage model, voltage amplifier model. But we know for our solutions that the amplifier is ideal. That means the Ri is here infinite, so it's open, and the Ro is here 0. And our AV is our here open circuit voltage gain. Now the input resistance of each circuit here can then be calculated using the Miller's theorem, where we use the input Miller resistance formula that's shown here. Now we have seen this before, so our RF here will be then divided by 1 minus the voltage gain. Thus we have now for the situation A the following. So Rin is also automatically the Rin Miller is this 10 kilo ohms divided by 1 minus 99, or you divide by 100. So you transform your 10 kilo ohm here in a resistor between these two nodes as 100 ohms. So you go down by a factor of 100. What happens at the situation B? Well, the gain is there minus 9, so you actually have 1 minus 9, which is then actually a plus 10 in total. So you go down from 10 kilo ohms to 1 kilo ohm, so 10 times smaller. This is now an interesting result at situation C. the gain is there positive. So you actually have now here 1 minus 6, which means you have effectively a minus 5, and you have transformed your 10 kilo ohms here between these two nodes to a minus 2 kilo ohms between these two nodes. And this is a very interesting and useful result, because you can have now a negative resistance, which will then counteract maybe the positive resistance in maybe an oscillator circuit that can be then used to reduce the losses in our circuit. D is also very interesting to see that, because now the gain is plus 1 and you have now 1 minus 1. That means your input impedance is infinite because you divide by 0. So you see here 4 different scenarios. You can increase the gain in a negative fashion, and then it will also reduce your input impedance or input resistance. If you make your gain positive, you can have also negative input resistance, but if you have a specific gain like plus 1, then you will create a input resistance of infinite. Okay, let's see that in the simulation results, so we can now also check that. We have here now the 4 situations. You see here the voltage controlled voltage, so that's the VCVS, and here see the gain minus 99, there's minus 9, there is the plus 6, and I could not make actually the simulator work for plus 1 exactly, so I tried to get it as close as 1, so this is then 0.99999, so 6 times after this point. Now you get here in the first case 100 ohms as we had, so that was our calculation. The second was 1000, so 1 kilo ohm. The third one, which is the C, which is minus 2 kilo ohms, is also correct. And here it is 10 giga ohms, but that's because I have here a small error. If you increase this, so you make the accuracy better, you come closer to this infinite, but that's not possible in the simulator, so I have actually also did that to prove it in this form. Okay, and then we have used this formula for our calculations in this example number 2. Let's now go to the example number 3, where we see the situation for the input capacitance. So we have input resistance in example number 2. This is now example number 3, where we see the input capacitor effect. So a similar circuit, actually the same gain, so we have the same amplifier, voltage amplifier. It's still ideal. And we have now here, instead of the RF, which is the feedback resistor, we have now here the feedback capacitor, 10 picofarad in the each case here. And we like to determine now the C in input impedance using Miller's theorem. So the solutions, again, the amplifier has an ideal situation, so the ideal voltage amplifier. So we can say the input impedance or input resistance of the amplifier is 0, or infinite I mean, and output resistance is 0. And that means the input capacitance of each circuit can then be calculated using the Miller's theorem, having this input Miller capacitance. That is also what we can use. So we can say C in, which is then a Miller, is then given by CF times this 1 minus the gain. Well, you can go now one by one. So for the A, it is now this. So it is then 10 to the power minus 11, which is then 10 picofarad. So 10 times 10 to the power minus 12 will be then 10 to the power minus 11. You get here exactly 100. So 100 times that will be then 10 times 100, so 1000 picofarad will be then changed to 1 nanofarad. You see actually, so between these two nodes, you create a much larger capacitor than the capacitor between these two nodes, between the nodes what we have usually input and the output. Situation at B, that will be then a different gain, which is the minus 9, so you go up by 10 times, so you get here 100 picofarads. Situation C, that's an interesting, again, because now you get a positive gain, and that will then create minus 50 picofarads. It's also possible. And how about C in the situation D? Well, the gain is exactly 1, so you get actually here 1 minus 1, and your input capacitor here is 0. So you get here 0 picofarads, equivalently looking between the input nodes for this situation. Alright, it was our video about Miller's theorem. We have derived the formula to transform our feedback element into 2 resistances or 2 impedances in our equivalent circuit. And we have used this in different examples, example number 1 up to number 3, to calculate the input resistance, input capacitor, and also what the effect is of our gain when it is positive or negative. If you have any questions about this video and examples, discussion, please let me know. I will try to answer them as soon as possible. In the coming video, I will also discuss a more detailed version of using the Miller's theorem on a feedback voltage amplifier, where you see more details about the model of the voltage amplifier. Stay tuned and see you next time in another video.